KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the inland Northwest this past week.
Richard Agir, a former Pasco police officer, now begins his prison sentence, 25 years, for the first-degree murder of Ruby Doss.
I'm not sure how much he understands that he was such an eraser. He changed the trajectory of my life and my sister's life in such a negative way.
In December, a Spokane County judge found Richard Agir guilty of killing Doss after a jury failed to reach a verdict in the same case in 2021. Monday, one by one, the daughters of Ruby Doss addressed the void left by her murder.
This is not just a loss for me, but a generational loss for my future family members.
1986 was the year of total devastation for me and my sisters.
The age of the crime is also a factor in Agir's prison term. The laws of 1986 set a strict standard for the mandatory minimum and maximum sentence. Doss's family and prosecutors asked for the max, 26 years.
This was a brutal crime. It almost rose to the point where it was excessive force.
New defense attorney Todd Maybrown asked for the low end, saying the judge needed to take Agir's years as a police officer into account.
The court needs to recognize that Mr. Agir is going to be a particularly vulnerable inmate based on his law enforcement background.
While no one, including Agir, on his attorney's advice, spoke on his behalf, there were several letters supporting him. With his 25-year sentence, the judge said he did factor in Agir's age at the time of the murder, 21. But there was another number he felt carried weight in his decision.
457 months and 4 days is about the timeline from when this act occurred, and that's the amount of time that Miss Ruby Doss has been deceased, removed, as her daughters talked, the erasure of her.
Agir's new defense attorney has already filed a notice of appeal. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Prosecutors today presented several pieces of evidence from the night of Kendi Howard's death, including body camera video from responding deputies and the 911 call made by the suspect, Daniel Howard. Using body camera video from the crime scene, prosecutors appear to focus on Daniel Howard's behavior.
What's going on? Sir, they have to do their job.
And point out what investigators thought was suspicious.
There appear to be deodorant marks on his shirt.
And why did that get your attention?
Because by that time it was almost midnight. And most people, if you put your clothes on in the morning and get deodorant on them, it's gone by midnight.
Each deputy who testified today all said they made several unusual observations, including a Victoria's Secret bag packed with women's clothes, small fragments of glass on the bedroom floor, and the dryer was running with bath towels and rugs. The deputy coroner says she found the position of Kendi's body in the bathtub unusual and noted some inconsistencies.
It's a strange position for somebody's feet to be in a bathtub. The blood on her face is not going in a proper direction.
Did that appear odd to you based on your training and experience?
Yes.
Jurors also heard the 911 call Howard made to report his wife's death.
Yeah, I need you to take a deep breath, okay?
But then prosecutors repeatedly asked responding deputies if they saw any tears.
At no point did I observe any tears throughout the night.
Body camera video also showed a deputy trying to piece together a timeline of that night, including when Howard called 911.
I didn't think it was a gunshot. I was downstairs, maybe going. It sounded like something hit the floor or something, I don't know.
So far, this has been the most difficult day in court, not only because of the evidence we're sharing, but the prosecutors also presented some gruesome photos of Kendi's body at the crime scene. Now, court will resume tomorrow morning. In Coeur d'Alene, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
I'm here in the heart of the West Plains, in what's now called the Priority Sampling Area. The EPA and Washington Department of Ecology are now testing the drinking water for hundreds of people for possible PFAS contamination. 7 years ago, PFAS contamination was first identified near Fairchild Air Force Base. Similar groundwater contamination has been identified near the Spokane Airport. Just this week, the EPA started free testing at homes east and northeast of both sites.
Our lab will analyze those water samples and provide the results to residents as soon as possible, but certainly, hopefully within a month.
The testing is free. Around 300 wells in this priority area were identified as possibly impacted by these so-called forever chemicals, which can create harmful health conditions.
And this, by definition, is quantitative. It tells me levels, and those levels tell me what can I advise you in terms of go forward for your care.
So far, 144 people have signed up. Ecology Director Laura Watson says the department will provide safe drinking water and filtration systems to impacted residents.
We have an emergency contract in place to immediately provide bottled water if people need it when they get their test results.
But the long-term solutions are less definitive. A model is being developed to track contamination in West Plains, possibly beyond.
This collection effort will really fill in a lot of those data gaps. They'll feed into that model.
But one resident present Wednesday, who didn't want to go on camera, says he's upset about how long this is taking. He's worried this problem will continue to spread while the state and federal agencies investigate.
First, you do what's called a remedial investigation and feasibility study to understand sort of the extent of the contamination, and then you can come up with the remedies to clean up.
I would assume this year we will be getting into the data and starting to formulate plans for short and long-term solutions.
Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Well, it's quite a shocking story. We want to warn our viewers that the details in this case are disturbing. A couple in Airway Heights is accused of neglecting, beating, and abusing the mother's 7-year-old son.
I never once noticed a child living right across from me.
Ryan Harrington lives right across the hall from the couple accused of abusing a woman's child.
The walls are pretty thin. I figured we would have heard them, if there was a child, but no, we never seen anybody.
We are not identifying the couple to protect the identity of the child. According to court documents, in January, Child Protective Services received a report from a school counselor that one of their students had unexplained injuries to his face and had a significant amount of weight loss after winter break.
They definitely do their job and reach out to the appropriate agencies for that reason.
A CPS worker then took the 7-year-old boy to a local hospital where a hospital employee contacted police. Documents say the child told the CPS worker that his mother's boyfriend tried to kill him and choke him to a point where he couldn't breathe.
We take all complaints, especially on children, very seriously.
Lieutenant Jacob Keith with the Airway Heights Police Department says this case was one of their priorities. On March 6, Airway Heights police officers arrested the boy's mother and her boyfriend, who police say is an active duty member at Fairchild Air Force Base.
It's a very extensive investigation that has a lot of moving parts and that involves a lot of interviews with forensic investigators.
In court, prosecutors told the judge this was one of the worst abuse cases they have seen.
The state, Your Honor, short of a child death case, has not seen abuse this extreme. This is the type of case that doesn't usually end with a child being alive at the end.
The child is with his grandparents now.
Ultimately, we were able to help get that child in a safe place and where he's going to be taken care of.
The couple faces first-degree assault of a child and first-degree unlawful imprisonment, among other charges. They are each being held on $250,000 bond.
In a case like that, you think that you might hear something going on, but we never heard anything. So yeah, it was pretty mind-boggling.
Child Protective Services told KREM 2 its organization focuses on the safety of the child. If you know or hear of any child suffering abuse, CPS encourages you to call their hotline at 800-557-9671. The mother's boyfriend is also facing charges in military court. Police cannot provide me further details on the investigation, and Airway Heights police tell me that the investigation is still ongoing. In the studio, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
Time and time again, Washington Department of Health data shows Spokane County exceeds state averages for overdoses and deaths. And now the public is pushing City Council for more action. A public safety and health briefing Monday painted a sobering picture, a 2,000% increase between 2019 and 2022 in Spokane County's overdose deaths for synthetic opioids.
I will certainly expect to see a even greater when we see the 2023 data.
Now, Dr. Bob Lutz with Washington's Department of Health has new calculations using some of the most recent statistics from Spokane County.
This number will really amaze the audience. From 2017, where we really had essentially no known overdoses from fentanyl, to 2023 preliminary data, we have a 5,800, yes, that's 5,800% increase in the number of people who have overdosed from fentanyl.
The staggering rise in overdoses and deaths has increased calls for Spokane City leaders to take action.
We could declare an emergency. We don't have the resources to really double down with additional funding.
KREM 2 News also spoke with Erin Hutt, communications director for Mayor Lisa Brown's office. She says the city could declare a public health crisis, but it would largely be to raise awareness and wouldn't open up any additional tools to combat the crisis. Though Dr. Lutz says awareness and reducing stigma could go a long way.
Around education, around supporting people who have substance use issues and for treatment.
Hutt says the city is looking at taking some action, though. While discussions on a crisis declaration continue, the city has asked the regional health department to coordinate a more centralized overdose dashboard. Funds from opioid settlements may also be used to staff up behavioral response units. The city is also expecting to hear from the state legislature later this week on a $1 million request to expand street medic teams. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Tuesday night, Spokan Valley City Council meeting saw a decent crowd as City Manager John Homan read his statement about the investigation being done into Council Member Al Merkel about his interactions with city staff.
I can share the complaints pertain to allegations of offensive, hostile, or unwelcome interactions between Council Member Merkel and city employees here at City Hall.
KREM 2 spoke with the councilman before the meeting to ask what he knew about the investigation. He told us he had no idea what the complaints could be about.
No staff member has ever come to me and reported anything to me, besides the first email that I received that there were quote-unquote complaints.
Merkel shared with KREM 2 emails between him and City Manager Homan from last week, with Homan asking if the council member would be available to talk about alleged incidents with city staff. Merkel agreed, writing to Homan if he could find out specifics such as details, dates, and names. The city manager emailed back saying, "We are not in a position to provide specifics at this time, and it would be best if Merkel only visited City Hall for council meetings." Merkel told KREM 2 he didn't really read into that email until the next day, when Homan emailed to thank him for agreeing to focus his City Hall visits to Tuesday evenings.
To clarify, at no time was Councilmember Merkel banned from City Hall. He was simply asked to voluntarily agree to limit his time in the building to protect all involved, including himself, while the investigation is being carried out.
Merkel says he's had few interactions with city staff, except during council meetings.
Before I even took office, we had an orientation in December, and during that orientation, he emphasized that I should not be initiating any conversations with staff except through him. And I have, as far as I know, listened to that request to the letter.
I attended the virtual town hall meeting tonight where attorneys for Singleton Schreiber spoke with victims of the Great Fire. The law firm has filed a lawsuit against Inland Power and Light, the utility DNR blames for causing the fire.
I have to drive through that area every day to work and from work, and it's just, a constant reminder of what happened.
Joe David Feliz and his wife Destiny lost their home in the Great Fire on August 18th. Now, more than 6 months later, most of the construction on their new home is complete.
People, they're just in different stages, and
it's exciting when you see a lot get cleaned up, and then their foundation, you get excited for them.
They were one of more than 24 families that joined a town hall with attorneys from Singleton Schreiber, a law firm that specializes in wildfire litigation. The firm got involved with the Gray Fire back in September.
We have experts that when we suspect that there's been a utility-caused wildfire, we have our experts take a look at it and see what they can confirm.
John Lemon and Steve Hill are the primary attorneys handling the litigation. They say since a DNR report came out that blamed Inland Power and Light for causing the Gray Fire, it's helped them move forward in their process.
It's evidence, or it provides information about how to get evidence, about who the potential witnesses are, and so it's very helpful.
Hill and Lemon say about 60 victims of the Gray Fire have already made claims through litigation. They expect to add another 30 people in the next month.
We're here to try to answer things try to help our clients to the best of our ability. That's the purpose of the town hall.
The Felice family created their own claim with the law firm 3 weeks ago. Joe, David, and Destiny hope to get more than just a settlement.
There's consequences for Inland Power's responsibility of not following through, and they need to be held accountable for that.
Hill and Lemon say they're still in their discovery process of litigation, and it will take time.
We counsel with them that it's a laborious process, but we get there, and have faith.
It's that faith that Destiny's holding on to.
As we're all progressing and getting through it, we kind of encourage each other and support each other.
Singleton Schreiber say a trial date is scheduled for September 8th of 2025. The Singleton Schreiber attorneys tell me they are not in litigation with the Oregon Road Fire. That is because the Oregon Road Fire was not caused by a utility company. In the studio, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
Yeah, well, starting on May 1st, you'll probably see some Coeur d'Alene police officers patrolling this area, and they're going to be on bikes. They're going to be on bike patrol, and actually those bikes that they'll be on will be electronic bikes. According to our news partners at the Coeur d'Alene Press, police received a justice assistance grant to purchase 6 e-bikes and related equipment. So police will have at least 4 daily patrols, and listen to this. The e-bikes are considered weather resistant, so they can roam through the snow and can be used all year round. On top of that, they are primarily used by pedal power, but have the ability to go up to 30 miles per hour. The department will be the first in the country to use federal dollars for an e-bike program, and police are hoping the additional presence will provide stronger engagement in the community while also deterring criminal activity. So again, that's expected to start on May 1st, and the police also say they'll still have officers on foot patrol as well. But for now, reporting in Kootenai County, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm gonna, better be safe than sorry.
Kaylin's freshman is getting an unexpected long weekend. After she got an email from Rogers High School, a suspected bed bug was discovered in a classroom. She called Thursday morning.
Yeah, they confirmed that it was bed bugs when we called the school.
Communications employees with Spokane Public Schools tell KREM 2 News it's still undetermined if the insect found was a bed bug, and say this is, quote, definitely not an outbreak or infestation. Though the district is starting deep cleaning and investigating further, out of an abundance of caution.
So I'm just so scared.
Kaylin's being cautious too.
I just don't want them coming home with my child. They get lots of binders at school, papers and all of that, and bed bugs can go in every, and once you have one, you have a million.
Her student won't be back in a classroom until she hears more from the school about what bug was in the classroom with them.
And I can't afford to, throw out all my stuff because of a bed bug problem.
One thing that I think most people agree on, it's the dislike of moving their clocks backward and forward.
For decades now, we've been making the switch, moving our clocks ahead 1 hour in the spring and then back an hour in the fall. The time change comes despite Washington state lawmakers voting to make daylight saving time permanent. So why are we still doing it? Let's verify. Our sources are the Washington State Legislature and the National Conference of State Legislators. In 2019, Washington Governor Jay Inslee signed a bill to make daylight saving time permanent in the state. However, the law noted that under federal law, quote, states are not permitted to observe daylight saving time year-round. That's because of the Uniform Time Act passed back in 1966. The act gives states the ability to opt out of daylight saving time, but no option to stay on it without congressional approval.
So we've waited and waited and waited, and people are getting tired of the switch.
With no action from Congress, Washington State Senator Mike Patton of Spokane Valley introduced a bill that would ditch the switch, but with a twist.
So in lieu of not adopting the daylight time, we are going to permanent standard.
Patton's bill would have kept the state on standard time all year round, at least until Congress cleared the path for permanent daylight saving time.
So people can have some certainty in the time of the year. I mean, there have been studies that have connected several health problems with switching back and forth between standard and daylight time.
At a hearing in January, it was clear not all Washington lawmakers were on board with the idea.
In standard time, during the summer, our sunset would be 8:11 p.m. And daylight time right now in summer is 9:11 p.m. So we lose that hour.
I'd probably have a lot more support if it was daylight, being in agriculture, having those longer days during the time that we do our harvests and everything. We don't always get started as early in the mornings, and it helps to have those longer daylight hours.
We want to get rid of that switch. And maybe that'll encourage, and if these other states do something, maybe that'll encourage Congress. I don't know.
The bill failed to make it out of the short session. And so on Sunday, it'll be time once again to make the switch, moving your clocks ahead 1 hour.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for it at the bottom of the navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.